Okay. Hello, everyone. Um, I believe I can start now. Hello to everyone joining this call from anywhere across the world, in Nigeria, Lagos, or anywhere across Nigeria. Thank you for joining this presentation. And what I'm going to be talking about today is consulting in the digital world, and you'll see the cross markets essentially replacing the word advertising with consulting, talking about how advertisers can consult in the digital world. My name is Peter Ajibomogo, and I'm a strategist, an ad man, and a tech bro. And I just like to use the local lingo there in terms of how we try to describe advertisers and technologists. So I'm not your typical ad man, right? I have my background in computer science, but over the last 8 years, I've been involved in marketing campaigns, specifically around performance marketing, digital innovation, and also product management. So I dabble a lot across both the advertising side and technology side. So I'm essentially sitting at the intersection of marketing and technology. I'm the co-founder at Webkeepers and Aptics. Webkeepers is a business transformation consultancy that focuses on driving innovation and growth for forward-thinking brands. And I have vertical experience in telecoms, e-commerce, financial services, and technology. And one thing I like to say, it's kind of like a disclaimer, is I'm not an expert in anything, right? I feel the word expert is a lot, it's very overused. So I'm just that guy that helps brands connect the dots, really looking at how I can, what really excites me, talking to brands and helping them figure out how to navigate the changing climate, the changing environment, and even navigate a digital world, essentially. So that's part of what I do. So again, like I said, the topic we're going to be looking at is consulting 2.0, right? Consulting in the digital world, essentially. And just before I dive deep into the presentation, here's just kind of like an overview of what I'm going to be talking about. So we're going to be looking at someone called Otto Anderson. So who is Otto Anderson and why should we care about him? And then next we're going to look at the key trends, which we can also look at as threats in the advertising industry. And then talk about how agencies can position themselves for growth in the digital world. So keeping it simple, 3 key points that we're going to be looking at. And then after I'm done with the presentations, I believe we can take questions and answers. So yeah, we can proceed. So who is Otto Anderson? And I think we cannot talk about consulting if we don't look at where it started from. Now, in 1913, a man called Otto Anderson, who was an auditor, started an accounting services firm in partnership with Clarence Delany in Chicago, US. And of course, auditing services and accounting services generally was in high demand back in the 80s, even from the 30s to the 80s, 1930s to the 80s. So of course, this was a man that had the skill set and he saw the opportunity to create an organization that provides value to businesses in terms of auditing, financial or tax management, accounting services, and the likes. And after about 20 years, 40 years thereabout of playing in the audit space, they realized that they could offer more value to their clients by extending beyond accounting services. So this was a business called Anderson Accounting Services, right? But they realized that they could actually offer more value to their clients by extending beyond accounting services and into consultancy. I mean, this only made sense considering that they already had a client base, they understood the financials of the businesses they were working with. So it only made sense for them to look at how to diversify into offering even business strategy, even beyond just auditing. Considering that an entity that understands the finances of a business is in the right position to actually draw out a roadmap of how the business should evolve or grow across all the other business operations. So they decided to create a separate unit, a management consulting division in 1989, named Anderson Consulting, while the accounting firm was called Anderson. Now, this Anderson Consulting will later go on to become one of the biggest management and technology consulting organizations in the world. Considering that as at January 1st, 2001, Anderson Consulting changed their name to Accenture, which we all now know as one of the leading management consulting organizations. Now, why are we talking about Otto Anderson? Now, this is because consultants in the 80s found themselves in the same situation that advertising agencies are now. They were approaching commoditization between the space of 1980 to 1990. Essentially, it meant after Anderson tax services opened up, or Anderson auditing services opened up, we started to see a lot more other auditing firms spring up from the 50s up to the 70s to the 80s. So at some point, it became super easy for brands, corporations, enterprises to even get auditing services. And it just seemed like they were even replaceable, because once you got an in-house financial manager or financial controller, or even a tax expert, you're actually able to bring that expertise in-house. So it almost looked like they were starting to become replaceable and even commoditized, because again, the profit margins in auditing was actually getting lower. People were not paying them as much as you would get in a consulting firm. So of course, that was what led to Anderson Tax expanding to becoming a management consulting company. And of course, we started to see that same trend across the other big four accounting firms. So from the likes of Deloitte, PwC, Ernst & Young, KPMG, these are firms that started as strictly auditing companies. But over the last 2-3 decades, they've actually become a force to reckon with in management consulting. And even looking at their books, as of 2020, you will see that up to 50% of their revenue is actually coming from the consulting services they offer. So this was an industry that saw that they were approaching, they were starting to get redundant and commoditized. They started to see that they needed to make a shift in terms of how they present themselves to the clients. And they took the opportunity, extended their service offering beyond auditing to strategy and management consultancy. And they've actually been the better for it over the last 3 decades, as you can see by the numbers that they reported. So again, this is kind of like the backdrop that I'm going to be using to talk about why advertising agencies need to start thinking like consultancies, or how they can borrow a thing or two or learn a thing or two from consultancy. Now, one thing I need to clarify before I go on is this presentation is not to in any way make advertisers feel like they need to become consultants. No. We place different roles across the business functions. At the upstream level of strategy, consultants operate there, where they provide high-level strategy to help businesses drive long-term growth. For advertisers, we are operating more towards downstream strategy, where it's more about marketing strategy, marketing communications, and achieving marketing objectives of the business. So essentially, we play different roles, but I believe there is a thing or two that we can learn from consultants. But before we go into that, let's look at some of the key industry trends, which I would like to also call threats that we're seeing in advertising. One, the first one is consulting firms are eating into the agency market share. Now, I'm sure in 2019, we remember one of the acquisition that happened by Accenture, where they bought Droga 5. Droga 5 is essentially one of the most successful creative agencies in the world. And the advertising industry was, was disturbed when they entered this, because essentially this was a management consulting firm, Accenture, coming into the creative space with all their network, their pedigree, their resources, and even their endless pool of money coming into the creative space, right? And it kind of started to spoil a lot of reaction from advertising experts. One quote here from Leo Bonesio was, I don't see my competition as WPP and Omnicom. These are some of the two biggest advertising network in the world. He said, I don't see my competition as WPP and Omnicom. I see my competition as the consultancies, right? And just to buttress that, we can see from, looking at even just the revenue numbers of the big four, from Accenture Interactive, PwC, Digital Services. These are the digital or advertising, the creative arms of the management consultants, the IBM iX, Deloitte Digital, and the likes. From across the entire revenue they made, we are seeing ranging from 5 to 10% of the total business revenue coming from their digital consultancy business units, right? So this has actually been a profitable venture for them. And essentially, it's a good move for the management consultants, because they already have the client base, they already understand their financials, they understand their business as well. So it only makes sense for them to play further down the value chain of business strategy, going down towards marketing strategy and even implementation and execution of the high-level strategy they propose. So gone are the days when a business would engage a consultant or a consulting firm to create the strategy for them, like a 5-year roadmap or like a 10-year roadmap. And then they look for different agencies, one to handle the creative, a traditional agency to handle the creative, a digital agency to handle the digital part, a PR agency, maybe they have a large budget. But now they are thinking, maybe it's just better everything sits under the management consultants. And it's because one thing the consultants have over the advertisers is they're able to speak the C-level language. So because they're putting at upstream level in terms of strategy, the consultants have conversations with the CEOs, the C-level executives, the CMOs, the CTOs. Those are the people they're talking to, and these are the decision makers in the company. And then after they've drawn out the 5-year, 10-year roadmap, they take that strategy and then trickle it down to marketing strategy, trickle it down to product development, to marketing communications, to sales and distribution and supply chain management. It trickles down accordingly. And advertisers take their part of the pie under marketing communications. So again, I think the way we need to look at it is if consultants are coming downstream in terms of, across the business strategy areas, then it's important for advertisers to also start looking at how they can start going upstream as well. And of course, looking at, again, some of the other data, like I said, Accenture acquired Droga 5 in 2019. And in 2017, for the first time ever, 4 of the 10 largest creative agency companies in the world were consultancies. This is from Ad Age, right? Ad Age is one of the advertising, it's a global advertising news publication. They give awards and the likes to some of the top creative agencies in the world. And in 2017, 4 out of the top 10 creative agencies that were listed on Ad Age were actually management consultants companies. Accenture Interactive, PwC, Deloitte, and the likes. And then we have other, management consultants like, McKinsey, PwC, now starting to position themselves as a new kind of consulting that helps businesses imagine their strategy for the digital age. So again, we're going to see a lot of this happening, and it's something that the industry needs to be aware of. This second trend that we've noticed over the last few years, which again hinges a lot on the pandemic and the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020. Obviously, that has affected revenue growth for advertising, for the advertising industry, right? Of course, it's projected that it's going to spring back up a bit as things start to go back to normal. But looking at like a 5-year CAGR projection, which is the compound annual growth rate, is expected that the global entertainment and media consumer revenue will grow at 2.2% between 2019 to 2024, while the advertising revenue would grow just by 1.8%. So we can see by 2024, consumer revenues is going to actually surpass the growth rate of advertising revenue. Essentially, what this is saying is advertising budget is reducing, at least if you look at it over the long span, about like 4 or 5 years. It's not going to increase as much as it used to, which again, I think 2020 kind of saw a dip. We're looking at about minus 5% in terms of the growth rate for consumer revenue, and then minus up to minus 15% for advertising revenue. But all that is expected to spring back up from 2021. But again, what we are seeing is that brands are starting to focus a lot more on building rich customer experiences and platforms rather than ads. And we even see that between 2020, even for us as an agency, I think we've seen a dip in traditional advertising, at least for, considering that a lot of people are staying at home, there was no production going on, people are not able to go to production sets. So it required even creative agencies to start thinking in a digital way. And there are even times when we'll be in the boardroom or in creative brainstorming sessions with other agencies for clients, and we all bring different ideas, and all the ideas were most strictly digital. So it's interesting because we're starting to see platform agnostic ideas come out a lot more now that we are operating in a post-pandemic world, right? And that is also expected to show in terms of revenue growth, both on the advertising side and in terms of the consumer revenue. So again, some other examples of how even local brands are starting to build platforms. Airtel TV is case in point. This is a telecommunications company that's now played into VOD or video on demand streaming services. So we're even seeing a switch in industries, right? So a telco company, it can actually now can say they're a video on demand, they're playing the video on demand space, right? A bank like GT Bank has food and drink festival. That's been the case even before Corona. They also have a new platform called Apari, which is kind of like a lifestyle platform that allows you to pay and shop online, right? GT Bank, there's MTN Yellow Star, where it's a platform that they built to encourage upcoming artists, and it's kind of like a music competition, right? Which again is just showing the fact that brands are starting to understand that you need to focus on experiences and platforms rather than that. Other examples, UBA Red TV, Access Accelerate TV. These are banks that have created content channels to their existing customer base and even to attract new customers, right? There's also Stanbic Bank Innovation Lab. They're starting to see a switch in industry for brands that telcos are becoming VOD platforms, brands that are playing in the financial services space are becoming entertainment companies. Even from the global perspective, if you look at Apple, you can't just say Apple is a technology company. There is Apple TV. You can say Apple is a content company, it's a TV company. You can say Apple is a payment company, right? So it's not. You need to start looking at the fact that we're starting to get to gray areas where you can't just sit in one industry, but there's a lot more vertical expansion and horizontal expansion going on across brands. And that's one of the trends that we're also seeing that advertisers need to be aware of. Also, the rise of digital. I mean, this has been something that I know advertisers have been aware of over the last decade. This is not something that just happened, but I think one thing that Corona outbreak did was to fast track that growth for digital advertising. So looking at the numbers, we can see that investment in digital advertising platforms is starting to match up with traditional or non-digital advertising revenues. So from 2020 upwards, we're starting to see a growth up to like $300 billion global revenue for digital, and we're expecting that to grow to about $450 billion by 2024. Of course, also for traditional advertising revenue, as much as it's growing, it's not growing at the same pace with digital. So again, this it's something that advertisers need to look at in terms of, are you leveraging digital across your creative strategy, across your marketing strategy for brands? The fourth trend that we need to also be aware of is, for players in media and advertising ecosystem, data has become a valued asset, and not just in programmatic buying or digital advertising, but even in how you can leverage data to push creativity forward, and also even how you can use it to drive automation, right? So an example here would be Apriva, which is a soft treating product by GSK. They were able to use a YouTube product called Director Mix that allowed them to use machine learning and create 119 versions based off one ad. And the interesting part is they were able to customize the copy to match what the YouTube viewer was watching. So let me expand that. So let's say, for example, you go on YouTube and you search something about the latest, you try to read about the gist about Don Jazzy and his dating scene, or who is Don Jazzy dating. You are reading about celebrity gossip, or you are trying to read about R&D, Shafi Bello, and any of these celebs. The system, Director Mix, is able to actually take that, your watch history, and contextualize it in how they present some clips out of a 6-second ad. So this in itself is like maybe a 6-second video material. Now they're able to change the copy based on what you're watching to give you more context when you're seeing an ad. So an example on the left is someone watching a video about celebrity gossip would have seen something that says you can't get rid of celebrity breakups, or you can get rid of cold sores in 2.5 days, right? And then another person that has watched a beauty tutorial would instead see this: keep looking radiant, but lose cold sores. Get rid of cold sores in 2.5 days. Now, the way they would have done is they would have created different kind of text materials and clips. Now, they don't necessarily have to create 119 versions, right, of this ad. The system is actually able to learn and pick clips from the ad that speaks to what the user is watching. And this is a perfect example of how the use of data intelligence, data analytics is helping to push the limits of what you can achieve with creativity, right? And I think that's the way we need to look at tech, as an enabler, not necessarily as a threat or as a disruptor. It can actually enable creativity. It can drive automation. And as we understand, when you're able to achieve automation, it helps you reduce your operational costs. It makes you more efficient and helps you to scale up your service offerings. Another example is two different platforms that I've been looking at. We actually use copy.ai to a certain extent at our agency. It's a machine learning platform that actually automates copywriting. And this is interesting because I'm sure copywriters, they are shaking and they're feeling like, damn. But I think the way you need to look at it is, this is not actually going to replace copywriters, right? But I think it's just to help copywriters be more effective, because by the time you start, I encourage us to just use maybe the free trial and try the platform. You see that as much as it's able to give you copy across anything, topic, product name, business name that you give it, it still needs that human context to be applied. So yes, most times the copy generator can actually just use it the way it is. Of course, this is where human input comes in. We are not just robots or machines that just churning out word without actually thinking from a place of empathy or without understanding consumer behavior. So it's still going to need human input. It's still going to need copywriters. But imagine as a copywriter, you have a deadline for next week to launch a product, and you have about 10 different platforms you're writing copy for. You're writing a script for an infomercial, you're writing a blog article, you have social media content to write, you have like a product description document, you have an ad copy that you have to come up with. It gives you the results, the copy across all these different channels based on the keywords you enter about the brand. So you put just the description. Let's say you say Globalcom is a leading tech communications company that offers data services, blah, blah, blah. It takes that and then rewards it in different ways and helps you present it across different formats that you might need it. And that's just when we were seeing, automation, machine learning improve how it's improving marketing in itself. Another example is Jovota. It's a crowdstorming platform. So typically the normal process of how agencies work is get the brief, we brainstorm. Of course, we do our client service relates with the client to get a better understanding of the brief. So once you distill the brief, you form a team of creatives, strategists, and then you also have your account manager, you have your art directors, copywriters, and then you brainstorm. Now, that process has always worked for us, and I think that's still going to continue to be the process, the best process. But the company now saw that, okay, we can actually scale up these efforts and remove some of the frictions that agencies experience. So what are those frictions? So typically agencies, because of the amount of work we do for a client, we tend to overwork and get underpaid, right? So you see cases where an agency is not able to scale effectively just because they have like 5 clients on retainership, they have like 10 project-based clients they're working on, and maybe some other accounts that they're partnering with other agencies on. Now, you could even have up to 40 staff members, and that would still not be enough. And then you see yourself saying no to new business, or even reducing quality of the work that you deliver to existing clients just because you're unable to scale properly. But Jovota was able to create a solution for that by understanding that co-creation, where that's the phase where it's the keyword is co-creation and partnership. So the idea of co-creation is co-creating with, either from the brand perspective, co-creating with your consumers, or from an agency perspective, co-creating with a network of other advertising experts. So what they did was to build a platform that has creatives, art directors, marketing technologists, creative technologists, strategists on that platform. And you as a brand can submit your brief. Now, what this means is you get access to a wide network of creatives. And look at it this way. If imagine you have a new brief that comes in and it's about an industry that nobody on your team has an idea about. So let's say maybe a brief comes from oil and gas. What it means is strategists, of course, would have to do a research, do some an industry analysis, do all the personal analysis and all the different kind of analysis, consumer analysis and all that for that industry, for that brand. But you can imagine if you're able to tap into a network that has access to people across all the different industries, and you're getting creative ideas from different people with different background, different cultural experiences. You're essentially able to build a global campaign just by logging into this platform, right? And imagine you have an agency that has this on the back end that's powering the agency, where it's not just about the staff that you have in-house, but you're able to actually also lean in to global talents, right? You can imagine how much work you're going to be able to do at scale. So again, it's really just looking at what are those areas that data intelligence, automation, machine learning can actually help improve operational efficiency, right? And that's something Jovita is doing very well. And they actually have interest in some of the big brands that you think of, Coke, GSK, P&G, they use this platform because these are brands that actually have very huge creative requests. And even sometimes their global agencies are not able to handle those requests. So again, it's just talking about how machine learning and data analysis can actually help improve creativity and improve marketing innovation. Then lastly, agencies are, the fifth trend that we're seeing is agencies are the most vulnerable states due to lack of differentiation. These days, every agency has their own mantra, they have their tagline. You see Leo Bonnet to say we're a humankind agency. You see where people will say we are forward-thinking, consumer-focused agency. You see insights, they will say, every agency has their own mantra, and we are all talking about how we are the next best thing after sliced bread. And yeah, the mantras are very, very important, and I think it does a very good job of creating a clear brand statement or proposition, at least in terms of the clients that we're engaging. But one thing we're not starting to see is the lack of differentiation. And it's almost like an agency, the life cycle of an agency is you start up as a small agency or either by joining a bigger agency, and you start up with a particular niche that you're focused on. And then as we start to grow, we start to fall into that trap of, okay, we're a full service agency. So every agency is full service these days. We are all doing creative, doing traditional, doing media buying, both on digital and traditional media. We offer everything across the entire value chain. But as this is happening, what we are seeing is there is no differentiation. So you can't even say, if I need an agency that is just good with strategy, this is the agency to talk to, right? And even digital agencies are also starting to just even really niche down to the point that they're saying, some are saying, do everything on digital, and then on the other end, they're still also doing creative. So yeah, we're not able to actually stand out as an agency because everyone is trying to do the same thing essentially. And I think we need to start having another look at this model, the agency model that we've been used to for decades. From a client's perspective, they're starting to see agencies as being replaceable. And that's because a lot of agencies are essentially offering the same kind of services. It's mostly, okay, once you need an ad, you should do the TVC, we do the production, we give you the ad, we move on, right? But at the end of the day, any creative agency can actually do an ad. Once you have a production partner, you create the script and this is not even to downplay the work of creative agency. I think it's just for us to look at how can we position ourselves from a place of value to clients and not just as executors. So essentially, instead of saying, we take brief, we want to just execute, we need to start looking at how can we be of more value in terms of affecting bottom line of businesses. how can we really show that our marketing efforts has actually translated to growth for businesses? And it's part of why at the boardroom, agencies actually lose the battle between consultants. They lose the battle with consultants, because consultants at that level, they're giving outcome-based strategy, right? So they're not talking about the how, they're talking about the why, right? And then after they talk about the why, they talk about the what you need to do. And then agencies now work on the how, right? So essentially, consultants are operating at the high level, they're controlling the budgets, they're controlling the business direction, and then we agencies, we get whatever direction that they've given. And again, just to reiterate, I'm not saying that process does not in itself has its benefit, because like I said, both agencies and brands have different roles they play. Both agencies and consultants rather have different roles they play across the business functions. But it's for us to see how, even within the marketing strategy, marketing communication space where we are, we need to understand the business, right? There is a psychological misalignment between the decision makers at the boardroom and the agencies, right? Agencies have this optimistic outlook to business solution. We feel that, oh, once we do this viral ad, everybody's excited talking about it, it's all going to work well. Agencies have this endless optimism. That's something I've noticed with agencies. And I think maybe because as much as I'm an ad man, I'm also a businessman. So I'm able to sometimes switch across to different psychological mindsets. And as a businessman, one thing I can tell you is the most important thing to me is not how cool the ad is, it's how effective your ad is. So we need to think a lot more, as much as we are thinking about creativity, we also need to be thinking about effectiveness. And I think that's something we can learn from consultants, not necessarily us becoming consultants, but also being able to look at a lot more of how can we, translate our marketing efforts. So sort of like focusing a lot on MROI, like marketing return on investment. How can we really talk about what we are, look at solutioning from an ROI perspective? Of course, even still talking about how clients view agencies, there's starting to be a lot more options. The barrier to entry in the advertising space is low. Both on the digital side, creative, and even media. Once you've worked in an agency before, you can easily start your own agency. If you have a laptop, you can start a digital agency, essentially. Yes, it's not essentially the best thing, but it's what it is. And it's for agencies to understand that this is going to keep happening. That fragmentation of the industry, boutique agencies, content creators, and influencers are going to keep coming into the market. And of course, what that means is they're taking part of the market share. And before you know it, you have about 200 agencies that are all bidding for maybe 50 to 70 solid brands. And nobody's even looking at the SME market, right? So again, looking at what are those spaces where other agencies are not looking at, and how can I become a force to reckon with within that space? And it's also how we are thinking at our agency in terms of how can we even do a lot more for SME markets, considering that a lot of agencies don't even want to touch the SME. And it's understandable. These guys don't have large budgets, but they expect more. I'm sure we've had experiences where, you see, I'm sure you will agree with me that it's the clients with small budgets, as we say, that the ones that have the biggest wahala. Why the big ones, most of the way won't stress you. But yeah, I think there is a way technology can actually help with that. Because like I said, one thing tech helps you to do is provide services at scale and improve operational efficiency. So we are taking a product-led approach to how we create solutions for SMEs. And that's just in terms of how we are also trying to separate ourselves from the crowd. Brands are bringing marketing in-house. GT Bank, for example, has no agency, and they actually were able to churn out, very creative, effective campaigns. Pepsi, P&G, we have other global brands that are starting to bring marketing in-house because they've seen that it actually, from a cost perspective, it actually makes sense for them. It's cost effective to bring marketing in-house. These are brands that could have maybe up to like $100 million, $200 million, up to even $1 billion in marketing budget. But they're starting to see that if they were to build that department in-house, they probably will not pay that much, right? So as business owner, it's a no-brainer which one you're going to pick. So again, it just speaks to how agencies need to be operating at a more strategic level. As much as we are focusing on the creative side, we need to complement it with more strategic thinking. And when I say strategic thinking, not even short-term tactical thinking or even short-term strategy, but more of the long-term in terms of, okay, if I have a kind of retainership, how can I make sure that I'm bringing long-term thinking to the table? And when you're talking about long-term thinking, we're talking about looking at the other areas of the business functions, and now agencies can actually play a role in driving more value across those other functions. The impact of COVID-19 has even it has forced brands to actually prioritize sales. I mean, they've always prioritized sales, but even more than ever, businesses are trying to thrive, and they would always pick sales over advertising. And that's why you see when there is a reduction in budget, the first place that gets it, the first department that gets it is the agency. You see that either they reduce your budget or they start looking for a smaller agency that they can afford, right? So performance is required. And as someone that has, I think it's part of why for me, I am very focused on performance marketing. I'm very, very big on that. So when I'm talking to clients, and this is not even just from a digital perspective, it's essentially from a 360 IMC perspective. I want to be able to, understand not just understand what the client's problem is, or understand how we can, what success means to them. And for some, success is sales. For some, it's not. For some, it's just they want to reposition the brand. For some, they want to change perception. For some, they just want to maintain brand loyalty. But for me, it's really understanding what performance or success means to them, and then really zeroing to that, and not just trying to give them a one-size-fits-all solution. And then, of course, we're also seeing a new wave of digital products and tech-enabled businesses that are focusing more on product marketing, growth hacking, and PR, rather than brand marketing or paid media. So case in point would be Piggy Bank. Piggy Bank raised $1.1 million 2 years ago without actually doing any form of ad. I'm sure you've never seen a Piggy Bank ad. Either it's a TVC or it's a sponsored ad. It's purely organic. And this is a business that has, more than, I think the last time they reported their numbers, they had close to 1 million customers, right? This is a digital product. And we're starting to see a lot more tech-enabled businesses. And I see a gap there, because on one end, I see that not as much as tech companies feel that they don't need brand marketing, they don't need TVCs and the likes for them to succeed in the long run. It's something that is actually important that I think it's because agencies have not also presented themselves as entities that actually understand the tech space. So I think we've always seen the tech space as, oh, this guy is digital marketing and they're coming for our market, and we need to just alienate it and not necessarily embrace it. But I think we need to embrace tech more. We need to actually understand that tech is a competitive edge, and it's in itself a differentiator, and it actually helps you to be able to talk to this kind of new digital products that we're seeing. So there's a lot of opportunities that the likes of PD Bank can get from brand marketing, as much, especially when they're trying to expand beyond Nigeria. A lot of them are still within Nigeria, but when they're trying to expand to other markets, they will start to need a lot of brand marketing for them to get into new markets. Also, understanding digital product advertising. So there's a completely different strategy required for digital products marketing from brand marketing, or for even marketing for traditional companies or legacy companies, right? A lot more focus is on growth hacking, which essentially is using the product itself to drive sales and user acquisition. And then there's also a PR angle to it. So a lot of these digital products are actually very big on PR, and PR in the sense of really talking about the brands, the company's mission, even raising money, joining accelerators, VC funds, and the likes. Those are things that actually give them PR. Doing founders interviews and the likes, they focus a lot more on that, because for them, it's all about perception building that perception that, in terms of how much user, what's your daily active user numbers like, what's your monthly active users like, what's the growth like, what's the customer lifetime value. These are numbers that try to share in PR articles so that they look more attractive to investors, because at that initial phase, their priority is raising money, right? And I see no reason why, as if you have like a brand that, like piggy bank that raised $1.1 million, that's not a small brand. That's a brand that, imagine you are working with a piggy bank as an agency, and you're not just coming to give them normal kind of tips that you typically would give traditional brands. It's something that we'll see that, okay, yes, this is actually it's actually what's partnering with an agency. So I think even that in itself it's part of why we're starting to, brands are starting to think that, okay, I'm not really getting much from agencies, especially this new wave of tech-enabled businesses that we're seeing. And then also from a consumer's perspective, there's the new wave of ad blocking technology that's coming up across browsers. Chrome, Safari browser, and the likes, they've implemented ad blocking plugins. Which means that, because again, their priority is their consumers. They want to make sure they're creating rich, smooth user experience for their customers when they use these browsers. So for them, it's very important for them to okay, I saw your message. All right. It's very important for them to implement this ad blocking plugin. So what it means again is, at some point, even digital media will not be able to just advertise with third-party data. And then other things like declining consumer brand loyalty, value-driven consumerism, a lot more brands are focused on, shared purpose, shared values brands, rather than just, you selling your products to them. So essentially, looking at the entire business function, there are other areas that advertising agencies can play in. So we need to reframe the role of agencies. So even within marketing comms, we're starting to see management consultants that vying for that space, digital agencies, advertising agencies, all just on the media aspect and marketing communication aspect. But there are other aspects in terms of product development, technology, innovation, supply chain distribution and sales that business consultants are able to offer across the entire business functional area. And again, it's not actually for you to go across all those space and say, I want to play in everything, but it's for you to understand what are your strengths. If tech is your strength, then how are you leveraging technology to achieve bottom line growth for businesses? So essentially looking at the entire client's orbit and looking for areas of opportunity for you to play in. So as brands and consumers evolve, it's time to answer the question that what business are you really into? Are you the media business, the creative business, or the value business? And taking me to the last part of how we need to be thinking as agencies for us to thrive in a digital world. So three key pillars for agency growth is people, process, and platforms. So in terms of people, we need to look at how we can focus more on strategy in terms of knowledge, focus on strategy that drives long-term business growth as we execute short-term tactics. Brand building and top leadership. How can agencies start to even take their own medicine? Agencies, we get carried away with building client brands while neglecting our own brand. So why can't agencies even be featuring on mainstream news publications and not just advertising publications like Ad Age, Ad Week, and the likes? So consultants do that very well. You see them on Fortune, Forbes, Harvard Business Review. You see them on all the different mainstream news publications. But in Nigeria, most times they're always very focused on the brand communicators, which are doing amazing, to be honest. But I think we need to also expand the scope of where we try to build top leadership and brand building. Talent, in terms of talent, are we investing in knowledge development? We have consulting firms that invest over $400 million a year in knowledge development. How are we building our talent pipeline? This is also something that we do at our agency through Aptics training company and the likes. Then in terms of process as well, looking at the entire agency value chain, there are about 15 different kind of value that agencies can potentially offer, from our retainer structure in terms of allocating top marketing talent to clients, up to monitoring performance of campaigns, to generating big ideas, creative direction. These are different kind of value that we're not really charging well enough for, and we're not differentiating across board. So instead of saying full service, you can be a strategy and research company, right? It doesn't have to be that you're doing everything. And then if you need to, play across all the other parts of the value chain, look for ways to partner. Also enabling the right culture for innovation, constant change and evolution. One thing we've done at our agency is to build something we call Innovation Lab, where we are looking at how we can do product development, create innovative ideas for our clients, leverage on technology. And not even just on technology, how we essentially can just have brands being at the forefront of innovation across their industry. Also pricing, we need to start moving away from that commission model and explore that value-based pricing model. So performance-focused reward, we have clients that we work with that we have a base fee they give us, and then based on performance, they give us an extra markup on that can go up as high as 120% of your base fee if you're meeting the targets. So I think we need to explore all those, other form of pricing models. And then lastly, platforms. How are you leveraging technology to differentiate yourself and also to act as an enabler or a leveler? Uber has enabled the transportation industry. We've seen Netflix and Airbnb disrupting the DVD rental and hospitality industry. So we need to really look at how you can use tech to improve your operational efficiency and deliver your service at scale. Example with Terragon, we have a platform called customer data platform that allows you to advertise to people across Nigeria based on using their phone number, based on different interest areas, either it's entertainment, sports, and the likes. And they did this in partnership with the likes of telcos, MTN, and the likes. We also have a platform called Wildfire that we built, a sentiment analysis tool that we also offer to our clients that allows them to be able to monitor their social media campaigns, measure sentiments, and be able to just see how their marketing campaigns are performing. Platform ownership as well. This is where because like I said again, brands are actually prioritizing customer experience for advertising. So a lot of brands are looking to partner with content creators, content owners, influencers, even platforms, tech platforms. So how can you make sure that, for example, an Accelerate TV is a content platform that was done by Access Bank. If you as an agency was to have like an Accelerate TV, that's something you can actually package as part of your value offering to clients. So essentially just thinking out of the box thinking. So just wrapping it up, essentially, we are not just brand managers. We need to start presenting ourselves as business transformation agents, creating solutions that drive not just short-term success for brands, but also long-term growth for businesses. So I think that's pretty much everything. I see I've gotten some notifications already.